I am Amita from Nourish Talk, a platform for natural and holistic therapies. We are going to be talking about digestive health. You know, digestive health is critical. I think all of us know now, and we are bringing an acupuncturist, Michelle Grasek, who is a licensed acupuncturist. Hi there, Michelle. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Good, good, good. I was just telling our viewers that we are going to be talking about digestive health, which is so important. I think all
Yeah.
of us know, and specifically on how acupuncture can help with digestive health. And we have Michelle Grasek, who's a licensed acupuncturist. Maybe you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we go into the topic.
Sure, absolutely. So I am a licensed acupuncturist in upstate New York. I have been licensed almost 11 years now, and my specialties are digestion, pain management, and cosmetic acupuncture. So I see a lot of patients for digestion in my practice.
Wow, we have to talk about cosmetic acupuncture and
Yeah,
I
it's
think
great stuff.
all of us will be interested to learn about that very much so.
Yeah.
All right, well, coming back to the digestive health, let's talk about the concept. So we've talked about digestive health from a functional medicine point of view, but we've never talked from an acupuncture, traditional Chinese medicine point of view. So good evening, people are joining and saying good evening. Well, I think I'm assuming they're from Asia, so good evening and good
Ah,
morning to everyone, and good afternoon, wherever you're joining. So let's talk about how does traditional Chinese medicine view the digestive, our digestive kind of system on a very
yeah.
high level. And this is not a medical advice. This is just educational session.
Sure, yeah. So Chinese medicine views the digestion as a digestive fire, right? So we always tell people try not to eat cold foods in the morning because that's when your digestive fire is really waking up. And you want to nourish and support it as opposed to like dumping a cold smoothie on it, for example.
Sure.
And in Chinese medicine, I'm not sure how familiar your viewers are, but everything is really based on this concept of qi. And there are many different kinds of qi. And you could consider the digestive qi to be what's called gu qi, right?
Good.
Which then goes on and is transformed into other types of qi in the body to help nourish all the different functions. But a lot of the other body's functions are rooted in, how healthy is your gu qi? Do you have sufficient gu qi? That kind of thing.
Got it, got it. So very different concept, actually very similar to what Ayurveda says. Ayurveda
Okay.
talks about the Agni. It's pretty much the same thing. What you're talking about is talking about the fire. So let's talk a little bit about the gu qi, the food qi that's known as the gu qi,
Mhm.
and the nutritive qi is called yin qi, right? So how does this whole thing work? Like there's so many qis, right? From a
Yes, yeah.
traditional Chinese concepts that are going on in our bodies. So maybe just explain on a very high level, how does this whole thing of food chi the gu chi to the yin chi, how does that come into play?
Sure, yeah. So basically, when you eat food, in Chinese medicine, the digestive organs are considered the stomach and the spleen, which
Okay.
we know from Western medicine, the spleen doesn't really have a lot to do with digestion,
Yeah.
but that's the name of a digestive organ in Chinese medicine. So when food is in the spleen, it's transformed into gu qi, which is then sent upwards into what's called the upper burner, which is the lung and the heart. So the gu qi is then combined with air and forms another kind of qi. It's called zong qi. It's the qi of the chest.
Okay.
And that happens in the lung, right? And then in the heart, the gu qi is transformed into the blood, which we know nourishes so many functions in the body, right? And allows it to work properly. You got to have really good circulation for that. And then there are further steps beyond that as well. After zong qi, or the qi of the chest, is created, it is transformed into zhen qi. And there's two types of zhen qi. So that's the yin qi, or the nutritive qi that you were talking about, and also wei qi,
I
right?
see.
Yeah. So Wei Qi protects the body's exterior from things like catching a cold, right?
Okay.
And then the nutritive chi travels along with the blood and nourishes the chi of the entire body, or nourishes the whole body, like the internal organs as well as the muscles.
Wow.
So a lot of different kinds of chi happening.
A lot of keys are talking to each other.
Yes.
So, okay, so when things go bad, right? Like someone who's, so this is, so the way you would figure out is the nutritive chi or the other chis, that other chis that you talked about?
So the nutritive chi is actually the chi that you're impacting when you put in an acupuncture needle, right? And so
Yeah.
really from my perspective, the best way to impact the gu chi or food chi would be, making sure that you are eating healthy foods, things that aren't processed, right?
Yeah.
You have enough water that you're taking in, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas from my perspective, for the acupuncture, we're really impacting the chi that's flowing kind of along the surface of the body, right? Where you put the needle in, and that's the nutritive chi. And the way that I approach it is, we always do an intake and ask about people's symptoms, but then we also take their pulse, which allows us to kind of get a better idea of that nutritive chi. And that helps me determine which points to use.
I see. So now, so from a digestive health, so would you use the acupuncture, which is inserting obviously the needles at a certain points, but you also combine it with other other therapies within the traditional Chinese medicine umbrella, like cupping or moxibustion or herbs?
Sure,
I mean, how does this whole thing kind of come together? Very high level again.
Yeah. So I always think of acupuncture impacts the chi of the body and balances it from the outside, right? Because obviously you're putting the needle in from the outside. And sometimes that is sufficient to help improve someone's digestion. In other cases, they need a different approach, which is usually when I would use Chinese herbs. And that impacts the chi of the body from the inside out. And in many cases, it's perfect to use them both together. They're kind of like, they're like yin and yang, right? They have kind of the same function, but from different directions. And so they're like the perfect pair, acupuncture and herbs. And you mentioned moxibustion, which is burning mugwort over certain acupuncture points. So I would use that in specific digestive cases when someone tends to have like a lot of cold in their body or in their abdomen that's not allowing the digestive fire to function. And so we want to really warm those points up.
Got it. So from a Chinese perspective, traditional Chinese perspective, medicine perspective, you talked about what are the simple self-care techniques that we can take? Like you talked about in not eating cold foods in the morning, right? Which all of us do, like
Yeah.
That's what we pick up and say, okay.
Yeah. In general, the things that are good for improving your digestion and your chi at all the different levels are kind of the same, right? It's all of the good advice that we've also been given recently for like improving the immune system, right? So in Chinese medicine, we always encourage people to eat like roasted vegetables, right? So this goes along with not eating cold foods. You want to eat something that's at least partially cooked, so not like a raw salad, but roasted root vegetables, especially in winter when it's already cold. It involves, gentle exercise, but you don't have to exercise so much that you're exhausted, right? So it's about nourishing your body with movement as opposed to working crazy hard, right? If you have a weak digestion. And then things like drinking like hot tea, ginger tea, these things all improve the digestion. Getting enough sleep, staying covered when you go outside in the cold and the wind. So basically all the things that we know are good for us but are hard to do on a regular basis, like healthy diet, adequate sleep, gentle exercise, that kind of thing.
Sure. So any common Chinese herbs, people talk about, like in other modalities, take this, take that. And, simple on a self-care basis, is there something from a Chinese herb point of view that people can do self-care, or do you think they always have to go through the entire process, just on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, the way that Chinese herbs are usually prescribed is the acupuncturist will create a formula based
I
on the
see.
patient's constitution, and it's usually, anywhere from like 8 to 12 herbs.
Wow.
And so it's pretty unusual in Chinese medicine just to prescribe a single herb.
Okay.
I know that's more common in Western herbs, for example.
Yeah.
So I do think for like a comprehensive herbal prescription, it's best to go see an acupuncturist. But one common digestive herb that is occasionally taken by itself in Chinese medicine is called chen pi. It's tangerine peel. And so it's really good for, we call it food stagnation, like that. When you've eaten way too much and you just like
Yeah.
feel really gross, like right under the diaphragm.
Yeah.
So it's dried tangerine peel that you can basically make as a tea and strain.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Dried tangerine tea. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, the peels of you dry the tangerine, the
Yes.
peels, and kind of grind it together or something, and then put it in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. So what else would you like to talk about from supporting the different qis that we talked about, the Wei qi and the Yin qi? What should we do to support it? Like we talked about the food, that we need to take. Anything else that, I know Chinese medicine also has a clock, right? When different times of the day, the different organs are kind of, more apparent. So is there anything that you think from following a clock or something that anyone should do?
Sure. Yeah. So the idea is that the nutritive qi that's flowing through the channels,
Yeah.
it spends about 2 hours in each channel every day.
Wow.
And it's
Okay.
circulating through one channel and then it goes to the next. So the first channel, I believe large intestine is from like 5 to 7 in the morning. It's very early, right? And then the next it goes into the stomach and the spleen, right? So that whole, it's flowing through your digestive organs in the morning. So the idea is that you want to be awake during that time, ideally to have a bowel movement, and then to eat something warm for breakfast to help that process, right? So Chinese medicine is really big into going to bed at the same time at night, waking up in the morning, making sure you're asleep between like 11 p.m. and 5 a.m., right? And some people need more time than that, right? But at least during those hours to help the qi do what it's supposed to be doing, circulate through those organs at night so that when you wake up, it's ready for all those digestive functions to begin, so that people can stay regular and keep their digestion really strong. There's a concept in Chinese medicine called irregular eating and drinking, which I think we're really good at in the US, is just sort of like eating a bunch of junk food at all random times of day. I know, like, Christmas is really hard for this. This was me. But Chinese medicine is all about like, go to bed at the same time of day, wake up at the same time of day, eat at the same time of day, because your body really thrives on those patterns because of the way the qi is moving in your body.
So that's amazing. In the sense, there's a concept, right, called circadian rhythm, right? And there's a lot of research and clinical trial. I mean, I don't know about the clinical trials, but the research has been done to follow the circadian rhythm. So it's sort of like that's what you're talking about, right?
Yes. Yeah. Chinese medicine really also leans into the idea that we're animals, right? We're part of the earth. We can't escape the rhythm of the earth, either, the seasons, like the bigger rhythms, or the day-to-day rhythm. Yeah.
So I think it's very similar, traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda. I mean, I've been talking to a lot of Ayurveda doctors as well, and they say the similar things. It's just the semantics, the nomenclature is a little bit different, but very similar concepts.
Yes.
Any other things that you'd like to add for our viewers of any self-care? I mean, we talked about the Chinese herb, but anything acupressure points that we can do ourselves, and if we have like a digestion issue, you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my favorite acupuncture points is, it's right here on the wrist. So it's called pericardium 6, and it's used really commonly for nausea. So I use this really like every single day in my practice. So to locate it, you would take 3 fingers and you would line them up at the wrist crease right here. And then the point is between the two big tendons right at the bottom of that last finger, right? Yeah. And what you can do is you can kind of like press around, see if you can find anything that's tender. So this point is also for commonly used for motion sickness, right? Nausea is involved in motion sickness, but any kind of digestive issue, nausea, as well as anxiety. So I feel like it's the perfect point for everything that we're dealing with in the world today with stress and how it impacts our digestion. And basically what you do is you can really dig. Right. When I'm doing acupressure, I like to feel some tenderness. Yeah. You could just do it for a couple minutes. It tends to help a lot.
Just on a daily basis also, you can do it?
Yeah, you can do that, especially I would say on a daily basis for people who have anxiety. Yeah. And if they are in the moment experiencing nausea, that's one of the most researched acupuncture points for reducing nausea, sometimes within just a couple minutes.
Oh, wow. So I just want to tell our viewers, this is, people are joining now at any time, but, this is the point we're talking about. How about Tai Chi? So you also recommend, like with digestion, we talked about moxibustion, you talked about if someone has a problem, right? We talked about the herbs, we talked about the acupuncture point, we talked about the acupressure. Do you also recommend Tai Chi, like a simple Tai Chi exercises for digestion as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So in Chinese medicine, you're born with a certain amount of, you could call it qi, right? It's like a prenatal essence, right? It's kind of like your genetic inheritance. But then you can also build your own qi through things like eating healthy and doing all the circadian rhythm stuff we talked about, and through gentle exercise, right? So Tai Chi and Qigong are really thought to almost like build qi from nothing, right? Oh, wow. So they're really powerful exercises, but they're very, they tend to be very soft and slow and controlled and gentle. And there are, I always tell people just to Google like gentle Tai Chi for the morning or something like that. Because it's like this really beautiful flow of like 8 to 10 different exercises that you're moving through. And there's not like one in particular that I recommend, because it's usually a series.
But a series of flow points. Yeah. Like yoga flow, right? The yoga has a beautiful way of going from one to another. Like Surya Namaskar or the downward dog, similar kind of, not that we're doing downward dog here in Tai Chi, but similar concept of movement, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that idea that the gentle movement actually builds your chi. Right, which is kind of amazing, because it's like coming from outside of your body, because it's very nourishing.
Well, thank you so much. I think it's very, very useful for our viewers, for all of us to learn so much about the traditional Chinese medicine. And Michelle talked about a lot of things. I know people are joining. She talked about Tai Chi. She talked about Chinese herbs. She talked about moxibustion, acupressure, and acupuncture. Anything else that I missed? Please go ahead.
Oh, no, I think that's everything. This has been great. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much for being with us. And we would love to talk to you about another topic in future.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and to all the viewers who are watching, these are free educational sessions that we do every single day. So please help us share. That's all I'm requesting all of you to please help us share to really tell advocacy of natural medicine. That's really what the intent is and the mission is. With that, thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you everyone for watching.
Thank you.
Bye.